First item is Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is adoption of agenda.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes, Joint Public Service and Government Oversight Committee meeting minutes dated April 13th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Van Sickle, supported by Commissioner Grote. Any discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next item is public participation. This is the first opportunity for the public to participate. For those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on any item on today's agenda, there will be a second opportunity for public participation at the end of the meeting. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Once, twice, 3 times. We'll close public participation. Next item is appointment. It's Friend of the Court Advisory Committee, executive appointment with board concurrence, 1 vacancy, 3-year term to expire on December 31st, 2025. Danielle Burd. Need a motion to refer to full board.
So moved by Romano.
Support Zinner.
Motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Danielle? Oh, Tom, we don't need to hear from
Hi,
you.
good afternoon.
Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yes, there is. Thank you for having me. I'm very interested in joining the advisory committee for the Friend of the Court. I know it's such a taxing process for families, parents, and kids alike, and if there's anything that I can do to help, I definitely want to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Chairman Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for putting your name in. We appreciate that. Do you have any background with the Friend of the Court or personal experience that give you some interest
do.
in this area?
I do. I currently have a case myself. I'm a single mom of 2 daughters. They're 9 and 10 years old. I've been part of the Friend of the Court for the past about 3.5 years.
What's been your experience?
Actually, I was just telling Tom here that every time I pick up or call, they pick up and help me. I know people who have experiences in other counties dealing with Friend of the Court, and it really seems like Macomb County does the best job from what I've heard by far.
I see your background with the Bank Secrecy Act compliance specialist and accredited compliance expert.
Yes,
That may help you in this job, perhaps.
I believe it
giving
will.
advice.
I believe it will. I follow the process. It's a
Very
big
good.
deal in my job.
Well, thank you very much for applying. Really appreciate that. Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chairman Brown asked the questions that I was going to. You answered them very nicely, so I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion support. No other speakers. Please vote. Yeah, I did.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next item is presentations, Macomb County Ethics Board Annual Report. Donald Amboyer presenting, Ethics Board Chairman. Motion to receive and file the presentation.
So moved by Nard.
Support Van Sickle.
Motion by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Welcome, Don.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow members of the committee. I really feel it's an honor and a privilege to be a volunteer. This is my 11th year that I've appeared before the Board of Commissioners to present on behalf of the Ethics Board the annual report. As you know, the ethics report is required by the charter, section 2.8, as well as the enrolled ordinance 2019-5, section 10, where the ethics board has the responsibility to develop and present the annual report, which I'm doing here today. I was able to forward it to Chairman Brown as well as to County Executive Mark Hackle prior to today's meeting, and I believe all the board members have had an opportunity to perhaps have read it. There's certain highlights that I would like to share with you, and if you have any questions, I certainly welcome them, and we'll try to answer them at the end. During the course of 2022, you might think it's odd, but it was a really good year because we had little business. When the ethics board first came into being, there was a lot of business. There were a lot of complaints. There were a lot of concerns as it related to all countywide elected officials, including certainly members of the board and the other 5 elected officials, as well as appointed officials and county employees. There was a lot of concern as to when it was developed. I'm sure Chairman Brown remembers those years quite well as other members of the Board of Commissioners. But over a period of time, largely due to training and other initiatives that the Ethics Board and the Board of Commissioners, as well as the County Executive undertaken, there's a better understanding of what's entailed with the ethics ordinance, and consequently, things are much better now than they ever were in the past. During 2022, we only had 17 inquiries, and those are rather odd inquiries because the general public, by and large, doesn't really understand the ethics board, that it only pertains to elected officials, appointed officials, and general county employees of Macomb County, whereas they think it might pertain to issues that might be transpiring in city government or township government, which isn't true. There's also a variety of other concerns or complaints that come about relative to personal domestic issues that people might have, thinking that some things that transpired weren't ethical, but it really doesn't pertain to the county ethics ordinance, which is the role and responsibility for us to educate and respond to those concerns. During 2022, we only had 17 such inquiries. In addition, we only had 2 advisory opinion requests. There's cases whereby county department heads, employees, and so on have a question that they don't feel it's necessarily a complaint, but they have a question that they would like to pose to the 5 members of the ethics board who are all volunteers. And what we do when we receive those written advisory requests, we obviously discuss. If necessary, we investigate, and very often call upon the expertise of Corporation Counsel. John Shapka has been outstanding over the years in terms of supporting and helping the ethics board with could be some rather delicate issues, if you will. Also, in 2022, we only had 4 ethics complaints. In comparison to previous years, we had considerably more. None of those ethics complaints were so serious as previous ones, and we were able to amicably resolve each of the 4 of them, which was quite good. In addition to that, there's language in the ethics ordinance relative to contracts that the county undergoes. And last year, there were 21 contracts that exceeded $35,000. So we work in conjunction with the finance department relative to those contracts if there's any concerns. There's also a requirement in the charter as well as the ethics ordinance relative to vendor disclosure forms, where vendors like employees are required to disclose certain information. If there's any concerns relative to the disclosures made by potential contractors, then we also take those into consideration and act upon them. Fortunately, there was none of which required any action by the ethics board last year. Out of the approximate 2,000 county elected officials, appointed officials, and employees, there was just over 1,400 that completed an online training program, and I realize that some of you also completed that online virtual training program. It's a requirement within the charter, and again, in the ethics ordinance, the ethics board developed a training program so that everyone is aware what's contained in the ethics ordinance and try to answer questions. And what we did was to develop the online training, virtual training program during the COVID epidemic, and that has worked extremely well. It was very commendable, and I can't believe it, but we verified it. Of the Sheriff's Department, 529 employees of the Sheriff's Department, 100% of those people completed the virtual online ethics training program successfully. I'm very proud of that fact, and also over 1,400 others in the county that completed it. It's very, very important that they do because they have a better understanding of the ethics ordinance, and consequently it benefits the county because of the behavior, the work ethic, and so on is ethical. And so that's been quite significant. We, like other county departments, have an opportunity to appear before the Board of Commissioners, typically during budget season. And the Board of Commissioners for 2022 approved an appropriation of $4,700, of which the Ethics Board only spent $541 of that amount. So we feel quite proud of that. And the large proportion of that is we don't have a secretary, so consequently, I have an extra phone that was supplied by the county, so we're always available 24/7 if anybody has a concern. So it saves the county money by having the phone, but we also are very blessed to have the secretarial assistance of Valerie Shapka, who, I'm sorry, Valerie, what her name? Anyway, sorry, I forgot her last name, who does the minutes. We have monthly meetings, and she's been very helpful in terms of providing administrative assistance to us, so that's been beneficial. Overall, it's really difficult to ascertain the amount of monetary savings, the litigation savings, the increased workplace safety that's transpired, as well as other cost savings to the taxpayers, but I really believe that the role of the Ethics Board over the years has been very beneficial to taxpayers, and it certainly provides for a very ethical government. We don't have some of the concerns. We're often asked by other municipalities, townships, and cities for technical assistance, consulting. The city of Detroit, they have full-time staff, a number of people, very expensive staff doing similar work in ethics as we are. We've been able to help them, have been called upon. So in sum, I feel that we've been very successful over the years. It's documented in the annual report and otherwise. And we're particularly grateful for the county executive who not only nominated myself to serve on the ethics board, but also Dory Vasquez-Nolan. We also have Ann Rusko, who is also a relatively new member of the ethics board, and Dr. Betty Youngblood, who is serving on the board. We currently have a vacancy, and the county executive, I believe, is going to be suggesting a nomination to the Board of Commissioners next month to fill a current vacancy we have on the board. We all serve as volunteers and very grateful for being able to do that and give back to the county. So with that, if anyone has any questions or any concerns, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for all you do. You mentioned the online training program. I know Chair Brown and myself have completed that. I would encourage all of our fellow commissioners, if they haven't, to take a look at completing that program. Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Don. In your report, you noted that, try and get back to it here, that the Office of Contract Management reported 253 contracts that were entered in by the county for goods and services in 2022.
That's the information was provided to me, sir.
Okay, and then of those, apparently 21 of those contracts were valued more than $35,000.
Yes, that's my understanding.
So approximately, what, a little bit less than 10% came before this board.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. So that was provided to you from the Office of Contract Management?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Amber, thank you for speaking to us. I do have a question for you, and you probably explained this and I missed it. Do citizens, if they have a concern about something, do they come before you? Do they
Yes,
ever
if
come
a
before you?
citizen has a concern about a county elected official, appointed official, or a general employee, they have an opportunity to contact us informally. But we prefer an advisory opinion request if something has transpired where they have a concern. We have a format that they follow. We respond as quickly as we can. Or if a citizen, county employee, or whomever has what they believe to be an ethics complaint, we encourage them to also submit it, and we act in accordance with, obviously, the charter and the rule of ordinance. And we often seek the advice of Corporation Counsel.
But not if they have a concern about an area in the government,
In county government,
county government.
only in county government, ma'am.
So it isn't county government if they had a concern. It would come before you.
Yes.
And is there a time period from a date that they had the concern that they would be eligible to be, the time period would be too late to speak to you? Would it be a year or 2 years or?
No, we have no time restrictions whatsoever. If someone commits a complaint, it's a quasi judicial process, if you will, where we respect due process. And we do investigate those complaints, and if necessary, we work in conjunction with the prosecutor's office and/or the sheriff's department if it's really technical. In difficult situations beyond the scope of our duties and responsibility to seek their advice. And then we conduct hearings where we have the respondent, who is filing the complaint and the defendant with or without legal counsel. And we conduct hearings and further investigate and then make a determination. If in fact that there was wrongful activity or behavior that transpired, and there's also provision in the ordinance where a fine can be imposed. And then if it is, and if there's a reason to challenge it, it can then be brought to district court. But in the last 11 years, we've never had that kind of a situation where there's been an appeal to district court.
Thank you for your explanation, sir. Thank you. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Amboy, for coming out. Always good to see you. When you have ethics complaints, I just read one that was filed last year that dealt with personnel issues in the department, and I think it was determined that it was being investigated by HR, so therefore I think it was dismissed by the ethics board because it was being handled by HR as a personnel issue. I think we dealt with the hostile
Yes.
work environment or something like that.
Yes, sir. There was well, there was two. There was one instance where in the Meals on Wheels program, there was a disagreement between two employees relative to procedures for taking cash. Human resources and labor relations were involved. We worked very closely with Karen, who has been excellent otherwise, in investigating and acquiring information. And as a consequence, before we got to a point of actually conducting an ethics hearing, one of the parties involved decided to resign her position. And when she resigned her position, automatically she was not then an employee of Macomb County, and consequently the matter was dropped, was terminated.
Okay.
But it ended it that way.
I guess, where's the line between an ethics investigation dealing with like maybe misappropriation of money or something like that versus an employee employer relationship in an office or in a department.
If there's an investigation of that, then there's likelihood of criminally deviant behavior. So consequently, that we would call upon the sheriff's department to ascertain if in fact there's any criminally deviant behavior, and if there is, it then would go to criminal courts and would no longer be entertained by the ethics board because it's a criminal matter. It's not a quasi-civil matter being an alleged ethics violation.
What about like hostile work environment, employees dissatisfied with their employer for whatever, way they conduct themselves, maybe discriminatory acts, whatever it happens, it could be a myriad of things that an employee may have against an employer in their office.
Sure.
Does that fall within your jurisdiction, or does that go to HR or are you both involved?
If in fact that there's an advisory opinion request filed or there's a complaint filed and we ascertained it's that nature where it deals with workplace difficulties, if you will, then we seek the advice and counsel of HR, Human Resources, and if try to work in conjunction with them. But for the most part, it's no longer an ethics concern, it's a human resources concern, and therefore they assume duties and responsibilities relative to resolving the workplace question that's at hand.
Have you been consulted in any investigations in the county about workplace and department issues, workplace, relations between an employer like you just described?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zinner?
Thank you, Chair. Since Dr. Ambrose brought up the situation with 2 Meals on Wheels people specifically, I am very aware of that situation. And because he specifically said the Meals on Wheels, and if other people in that genre hear this, I want it to be known that I know there was no problem with those people who are no longer here. And I'm not going to go any further with it. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further speakers, please vote.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Don.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Next item is Resolution 2023-10425, supporting Senate Bill 245. Motion to refer to full board, please.
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Van Sickle, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Commissioner Nard, would you like to speak to this?
Briefly, this is a bill by Senator Bueno, which will probably solve, in some part, the donor situation that we have, a donor county situation, by allowing the tax from your vehicle registrations to go back to the particular counties where you register your vehicle. So I know SIMCOG has encouraged us to support different bills like that. This bill will go before the Senate Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So we just wanted to come out of that and go to a full debate and vote, and hopefully they'll pass it so that residents can start seeing, more money coming into their particular counties to get their roads fixed without just having Macomb County basically being one taking care of everybody's roads.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if this bill even affects Macomb County. I read through it, and as Commissioner Hahn and I both know, the devil's always in the details in these bills. And the wording of the bill specifically mentions road commission. It does not mention a Department of Roads or a roads department, which is obviously what we have, and they're 2 very different entities. So I'm wondering if, this bill would even do anything for Macomb specifically. It would obviously do something for those counties that have a road commission, but I think that's something that we need a little bit of clarification on, or if that's an amendment to this Senate bill that could be had in a conversation with Senator Bueno, as to what his intentions were. Obviously, he's from Macomb, so he understands that part of it, but just the wording of the bill had me hesitant as to whether or not it would actually positively affect Macomb County, and I'd like some clarification on that if we could before full board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That'll be pursued. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Yeah, we'll give Paul a call. Thank you. Next item is full board approval requested, Resolution 2023-10441, a resolution requesting support for the Macomb County Central Intake Assessment and General Population Housing Addition and Renovation Program. Motion for approval.
Motion to move to full board?
Support, Nard.
I have a motion by Commissioner Lucido, supported by Commissioner Nard. Chair Brown, would you like to speak
Yeah,
to that?
thank you. Beg the committee's indulgence. This was added suddenly. Got a call, was talked to our county lobbyist, and the discussions are right now heated up apparently up there regarding appropriations, and now would be a good time for us to chime in with our support for the appropriation supporting our jail project, air intake project. And they asked if it would be helpful for them if they had a resolution from our board supporting an appropriation for that purpose. And so that's the purpose for it today, to get it up there in this month while they're actively discussing it. Now, it's, who knows what happens up there, but at least we get our word out that we want to support an appropriation for this purpose. So that's why it's here. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some general concerns about this, and I guess questions for Chair Brown. Is the lobbyist just wandering around Lansing with this resolution? Does he have further documentation? Are there more specific numbers? Is there more specific information on the project itself? Because if I'm a legislator and I just see this request with no details, I'm going to be asking questions. So is that something that the county lobbyist has on hand that he's going to present with this? Because I'm curious what the lobbyist has as opposed to what we have, because we have had nothing. We have had very general, broad strokes of this project and not the nitty-gritty details. So I guess I'm wondering what the level of detail the lobbyist is going to have with him in Lansing.
well, as far as, we're getting presentations next month on the details of the project. So there's nothing that this board's authorized in terms of appropriations that we're going to spend. So that, they don't have that, so, but they're advocating a similar project. It's basically the same that they were advocating last session that didn't happen for some reason. So, we're asking for an appropriation, and I'm intending, was up there in Lansing at the MAC conference last week, and they had all the leadership up on the stage, addressing the county officials. I asked if they'd be willing to support Macomb County's initiative where we're marrying mental health with law enforcement, and asked them to join us in supporting our initiative. And so they've heard it. The executive's been up in Lansing talking about it that week, as a matter of fact. And he'd probably been previously as well. So I just wanted to make sure that we're up there letting us know that it's something we care about, and that let our legislators know that we think it's important. And they got a lot of money up in Lansing for a lot of things, and we'd like to see some of that money come down here to support our criminal justice program. So that's where it's at. So that's the best I can say about it right now.
And that's fair. I'm just concerned about throwing my support behind a project and asking for money for that project when I don't know the details of said project. And this is a lot of money from the ARPA funds from the county. Now we're asking for even more funds from the state. I feel like our ducks are a little out of the row here in how we're going this process.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would have preferred a more detailed presentation to us, the board, and then we can decide, yes, let's go for more money from the state. I know it's PROPS time, but we also were supposed to have a presentation last month, the month before that. So I have several concerns with this, and I don't even know if I can support this. Being the CMH chair, this is very difficult for me because I can see the potential in this project, But as I said with the last item, the devil's in the details, and I don't know what those are. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Zong.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking of our lobbyists, I think it would have been beneficial for them to inform us about the previous bill, 245. I get that we have a direct connection to our state senators, but at the same time, we pay this lobbying firm, and I don't see a return in it. At least I haven't yet. With that said, this intake jail project, we knew based on that presentation they gave us last year that they were short by millions of dollars. And so I believe that this resolution is supposed to try and garner support from the state to supplement some of that. But if this project is really about mental health, I do believe that CMH does need to be involved in that conversation. And just specifically, like in the fifth whereas, it reads that this Macomb County Jail project would be used to expand existing jail space. So how I read that is we're just asking for money so that we can expand the jail to hold more inmates. I don't know, but if it's an intake project, then I think it needs to be separated from the jail. And right now, the way that it is reading to me is that this money is going to renovate the jail, which, I mean, I understand it needs a lot of renovating because it is very old. But I just don't think that if we're going to combine the ARPA fund and then, hope that the state is going to provide funding for this overarching project, it just doesn't seem like it's very clear. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, if I may direct the next question to Chairman Brown. If this is time sensitive, I can understand why we might want to support the resolution today. If, however, it isn't, and you mentioned that there may be a presentation on it, is it perhaps maybe we should postpone this until first we get the presentation, which would probably satisfy Commissioner Kraft and maybe a few others, and then vote on the resolution? I have no compunctions about supporting it now, but I sure would like to have some more information. But if it was postponed till after the presentation, I'm sure all commissioners would have a lot more information. Just a suggestion. Thank you, Chair.
Chair Brown, would you like to address that?
Thank you. My thoughts were to get our support, because the board generally supports what we're trying to accomplish over there. And I wanted to make sure that our voice is up there with those advocating for the county that, this is an important project and we need money to support the project. And I think we all agree that we wanted to do this, generally speaking. So is it necessary? I mean, they're up there making decisions. Somehow the football was dropped in Lansing in the last quarter in Lansing. Somehow we had appropriation requests up there. We thought we were going to get it and it slipped out of our hands. Maybe because there were not enough people up there knew of our intention. So this is intention to try to get it up there while they're talking about it now. We certainly can wait till next month and maybe the decisions won't be made by then. I guess if we want to wait till next month and maybe they'll make the decision before that, maybe they won't. I don't know. And then Commissioner Kraft's up there every day. And so, I don't know. What's the schedule, Commissioner Kraft? Do you think that they'll make decisions on? Because one of the reasons they were postponing this, quite frankly, was they're trying to try to get some more money from Lansing when they come in next month to tell us, what the budget will be. Because if they got money coming in from the state, it helps offset our expenses. It's less money our county taxpayers have to pay for these things. So, but I don't know, Commissioner Kraft, what's your opinion on the appropriation process? You think that they'll be debating it next month?
My snarky answer is I'm in the minority party, so I don't know what's going on. My official answer is that they have been having appropriations meetings this week, the previous week, and they have been voting out budgets. And I guess to Commissioner Romano's point, I'm not asking to move it to next month, even just after the presentation. That's supposed to be in a week or so, would satisfy me. So
I think we could probably wait. We'll have those hearings, I think, in 2 weeks' time. So I think we could probably wait. We don't want to jam this through, certainly. I want to have unanimous vote when we're advocating money for our county. I'd rather have a unanimous vote from all of us supporting a project that'll help cost us less money. We get money from the state to help us anything we do. So, if it's, so I'd rather have everyone's on board and rather have someone feel uncomfortable about it. So we don't have to vote on it today if you'd rather. So.
Would the, before I recognize the other two commissioners, would the mover and the second withdraw approval and table this to a future date?
What was I?
I believe was one user.
I made the motion to move it to full board.
Right.
I didn't motion to approve it today.
Yeah.
Move it to full board, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Oh,
Yeah, I would like to move
What-
it, I mean,
Oh,
the Commissioner
then-
Romano asked, is this time sensitive? So if it was moved to full board, which is what,
2 weeks.
the 18th, would that be fine? Would
I can live with that.
Okay.
Mr.
Then I'll
Chair,
move to
yeah.
Commissioner Perna.
Mr. Chair, I know that the presentation is going to be at my committee, I believe on the 16th, 15th or 16th.
Okay,
So we'll have the presentation prior to the next full board.
thank you.
If that assists.
Commissioner Perna.
In response to Commissioner Brown, would this help our lobbyists if we made it past the resolution now for them to?
It would help us, but, yeah, that's, well, but, I mean, it's all relative. I mean, today or 2 weeks, I mean, we could probably wait till after we pass it now, it goes to full board, and if the commissioners hear something at Commissioner Sabatini's committee that they don't, that would cause them to change their vote, the full board's when we finally approve it, so I think that approving it today and sending it to full board will be appropriate, and if there's some reason that we don't want to send it to Lansing and support, we don't have to.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner, oh, that was Perna. Seeing no other commissioners, we have a motion to refer to full board. Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
The next item is proclamation. I will take a motion to refer to full board A through F, but I will call them individually after the motion.
so moved by Nard.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Lucido. The first one is a proclamation commending Lynn Arnott-Bryks upon her retirement from Macomb County. Did you wish to speak to that, Chair?
No, it's self-explanatory.
Okay. Next one is a proclamation honoring Diller Rex Reeves for his heroic effort saving students while bringing a school bus to a stop. Commissioner Zong, did you wish to speak to that?
Yes, Chair, and if it's okay, I could just speak in general for B through E. So you guys have probably seen the video of Dylan Reeves. He's a 7th grader at Carter Middle School, just down the street from my neighborhood. And the bus driver, had a medical issue while she was driving, and Dylan was able to identify what was happening, and he acted so bravely and so quickly. He went and stopped the bus. Like, I don't even know how to drive a bus or stop a bus, so I just thought that it'd be really great for us to recognize, his bravery. Some of the video that has been shared across social media has reached over millions of views. And so I really believe that, Dylan is a hero, and he really put our community on the map. So, and this was this was all just a coincidence that I will be introducing 4 proclamations. Quite frankly, might be the first and the last. But if any of you would like to add your names to it, certainly, by all means, I'd love to have your support and your sponsorship as well, too. And then 9A is a proclamation for the robotics team that came in 3rd place. 9C. Sorry, 9C. They came in 3rd place out of 600 teams. And then 9D is just recognizing the month of May as AAPI Heritage Month, and 9E declaring the first Friday in June as National Gun Violence Awareness. These last two are proclamations that the board has passed in the past, so I hope to have your support for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any of the commissioners want to join in on the proclamation as Commissioner Zong has indicated? Please let her know or administration know. Next item is a proclamation recognizing the month of May as Older Americans Month. Commissioner Lucida, would you like to speak to that?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have a motion and support to approve A through F, referring them to full board.
Chair, you have a speaker.
I do. Commissioner Nard, why don't you sneak in?
Very quickly, I just wanted to speak on Commissioner Song's proclamation of Dylan. When I watched that video, not only was he brave, but he didn't show any nervousness at all. I mean, he had a steady hand and telling calming the other kids down, and calling 911. It was just extraordinary. I mean, I was really impressed. So I would like to join you in that proclamation, if you will. Thank you.
Well, I'll just make it unanimous. I'd like to join in on all of them.
Right.
Okay. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our second of two public participations. This is an opportunity to speak on any issue for a maximum of 3 minutes. Anyone from the public wish to be heard?
Good afternoon. My name is Amanda, and I wanted to, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. But I would like to thank you all for passing National Gun Violence Awareness Day. But I would also like to extend the invitation to all of you to join us for our Wear Orange event on Saturday, June 3rd, in the city of Roseville at Veterans Memorial Park. We'll be having a Wear Orange proclamation ceremony, along with some other activities honoring gun violence survivors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard under public participation? Seeing none, we will move into commissioners' comments. I see Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say first, I'm sorry Pamela isn't here with the orange shirt on. We miss her. Secondly, I want to say the picture that I have for everybody, I was on a boat today with some scientists from, I just lost it.
BioSafe.
Army Corps of Engineers.
Thank you, Army Corps of Engineers. And we were looking, they're taking samples. They have been taking them for 3 days. They were taking samples today of Lingbaya. And at the top, it looks like little brown or green pieces of, it looks like bunny poop to me. But that is actually the beginning of Lingbaya, and then it goes into something else. It goes into the brown, the brown stuff that you see that's together. And if you look closely, you'll see there's silver lines in there. Well, that is through the whole area, through the whole piece of that's being held, and it's actually always that way. And that is what holds it all together. And I had never seen that before. I've only seen the top surface of what comes later. And there's the scientist from Mississippi that's finishing today she just scooped that up. We were in 2 to 3 foot of water, and the little green, it looks like brown to me, but green pieces there was just oodles of them, just floating around. It's just an interesting thing. I thought you might be interested in learning about it, just because.
Limbaya, I don't know, what is the Limbaya?
That's the green stuff. I had
Don't tell me, tell it to the speakers.
No, I'm sorry. That's, they're calling it an algae that's on the lining of the shores of certain areas where there's water. This was in Lake St. Clair, between Harrison Township and St. Clair Shores. And there's a study for the next 2 years starting to figure out why we have so much of it, why we have it at all. It's also in other areas of the country. They're having a big problem in Florida right now. I'm not sure if they call it limbaya, but there's also areas in the state that have it also. So this was just the beginning of it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. I had mentioned to Commissioner Zinner this past Sunday, there was a 60-minute special on this stuff where they actually showed that it had washed up on a 30-mile beach line in Florida, and it had accumulated to be 3 foot high. And they did an aerial view, and it showed that from Venezuela moving through Cuba into Florida, there's enough of it to circle a globe. Nobody knows what this is, how to cure it, or how to deal with it. So if you get a chance, watch that special. It was really kind of scary. Commissioner Zinner? Or Don Van Sickle? You two look alike.
Thank you, I think. So would this be considered an invasive species?
They don't know that. I'm just quoting the special. They don't know that yet because they really don't know what it is. And they actually interviewed a couple environmentalists who were advocating this is good for the ecosystem. I'm just, hey, watch the special. He didn't get my applause with that statement, but that's what he said.
Add ketchup, you can eat it.
Yeah.
It is organic.
Commissioner Sabatini.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to update the board. I don't know if you heard today, but apparently the state is proposing a $20 million bailout for Highland Park in regards to their water debt to the GLWA. I know we've been talking about this for quite some time. You know, this is one of the challenges when we're working collectively with the GLWA and only having one board member there on that vote. But, you know, this has been going on for quite some time, and finally the state has stepped up to resolve the matter. My only concern now is just going forward, is this going to continue with Highland Park, and what's the plan going forward with the GLWA to hopefully not allow this to accrue in this type of an amount going forward. So hopefully we can get an update for Public Works at a later date, and kind of what's the talk going forward on this, because it should have never even came to this, and what we had to do to get involved, and even threaten to, you know, hold our payments to the GLWA to get this matter resolved. So just wanted to update everybody on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quickly, 2 weeks from tonight, you all should have received an invitation. If you haven't, I'm inviting you anyway. We are having our first ever Community Mental Health Awards Night, where we're going to be honoring community partners, providers, persons served, things like that. We've never done this before. We're trying to see how it goes. You're all invited. It's at Macomb Community College South Campus, and it starts at 6 o'clock on May the 18th. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Would you please pass that on to staff so they can send it? Thank you. Chair Brown.
And thank you. When I was at MAC last week, echoing what Commissioner Sabatini said, they had the state budget director speaking to the lunchtime audience there, and afterwards I took that liberty to go up and talk to him about the need to take care of the $20 million owed the 111 communities that paid the bills for GWA, and they said that they were very much concerned about it and were working on it, and I'm glad to see today that they've moved on that. And I assume since it was introduced in the Senate, it'll probably go through the House and probably be passed. So that's a step in the right direction. I talked to Candace Miller earlier today, and she felt the same way, that she felt very grateful that the state's maybe going to step up and pay the $20 million and reimburse the 111 communities indirectly for the expenses. But she echoed the same that Commissioner Sabatini just said. There's still more work that needs to be done down there with the whole operation, but at least in the short term, at least we make us whole. So, thank you.
Thank you. The advocates for the National Gun Violence Awareness have asked if they could take a picture with us, so we're going to take a 5-minute recess and take a picture. Next item on the agenda, closed session to discuss Macomb County Circuit Court case number 2021-3825-CZ, City of St. Clair Shores versus Macomb County. I need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved by Nard.
Support.
I have a motion by Commissioner Nard, supported by Commissioner Romano. Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Next item is Department Recommendation Settlement Consent Judgment Macomb County Circuit Court Case number 2021-3825-CZ, City of St. Clair Shores versus Macomb County. I need a motion to recommend the full board.
Motion approved, full board.
Support.
Motion by Romano, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Support Zinner.
Motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Please vote. Meeting is adjourned.